All right, guys, welcome back to Downtown Rams. As always, I'm your host, Alexis Kraft, joined here with my co host, Jake Ellenbogen, and we are coming to you to preview the Rams' Week 5 matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles at SoFi Stadium this Sunday. And Jake, these two teams, I think, are two of the better teams in the NFC. The Eagles certainly had a lot of hype going into the season, rightfully so. They were in the Super Bowl, lost to the Chiefs earlier this year. Very good team. Jalen Hurts, I think, has proved a lot of people wrong. He's kind of ascended and become one of the better quarterbacks in this league. They have a very talented team. I think they have an underrated defense. They've got a lot of Georgia Bulldogs on that defense as well. As we all know, kind of the running joke during the draft this year is that the Philadelphia Eagles drafted a lot of Georgia players, a lot of good Georgia players, Jalen Carter, who we'll talk about later in this episode, being one of those. So definitely a lot of respect, I know, from me and you for this Philadelphia Eagles team. The Rams coming off a hot game against the Colts. They did win in overtime, but before kind of that second half, the Rams showed us what they can do when they're playing really well and firing on all cylinders. So, a lot of hype, I would say, also for the Rams. Maybe not as much as some of these other teams, but I think a lot of people are coming around on the Rams who might have perhaps slept on them to start the season. So should be a really good matchup. The Rams have home field advantage at SoFi Stadium. That certainly helps. The Eagles have had a good start to the season. They've not had an easy, I mean, they're undefeated, but it's not easy. They're undefeated, right? I just totally second guessed
Yeah,
myself.
yeah, they're undefeated.
Yeah,
No, don't worry.
I'm reading this correctly. Okay. Yeah, they're undefeated. And, you know, I guess, Jake, to start this off, I think we should talk about kind of this Eagles team because you and I kind of talked about this before we started recording because there's like the Eagles are a very good team, but they also are a team who's very openly struggled in some of their games this season. So, yes, they are undefeated, but some of these wins have been excruciating for them to pull out. So, on your opinion, what kind of Eagles team are we facing? What is the best way for you to describe the 2023 Eagles so far?
Man, so I watched every game of theirs. I came away with the fact that I feel like Jalen Hurts is finally somewhat healthy. I don't think he started off the season healthy. I know that was something that came out with Don McNabb and having that discourse with him, or I think it was McNabb who put it out there. He didn't think Jalen was healthy. I don't think he was. Now I think he's getting back there. 67.7 completion percentage, 5 touchdowns. He's thrown 3 picks, including 2 that went in that Vikings game. I think when you look at it, Jalen Hurts at the end of the day, he's one of the best quarterbacks in football when healthy. What he can do with his legs is definitely something else. This team runs 35 times a game, Alexis. It's the most in the NFL. And I've been saying, I've brought it up. You can run against this defense, this Rams defense. You can run against. Teams stop running against them because the Rams obviously either take away the run or so forth. But this is a game I don't see the Eagles. They're not going to stop running against the Rams unless the Rams take them out of the game entirely. And DeAndre Swift, who's one of the best running backs this year, averaging 6.2 yards per carry. He's averaging 91 yards a game. So not bad for somebody who barely touched the ball week 1. He's really exploded. Then you look at A.J. Brown and, of course, Devontae Smith. They make up one of the best duos in all of football at the receiver position. So I think coming into this game, really the Eagles are a little bit of an underachieving, a team with a lot of, many targets on their back. I mean, you think about it, okay, you win the Super Bowl, you have targets on your back. We're seeing that with the Chiefs. And they have not looked great either, to be fair. But the Eagles are undefeated and they have not looked great. I feel like the one game where it kind of all came together a little bit, even though I won't even say that because Jalen Hurts didn't look his best. The Tampa game. That's when the defense really came out and just stifled Tampa on the road, no less. But that Washington game was a little bit of a step back for the defense. And Alexis, I'd be remiss to not mention the fact that they are banged up in the secondary. They did lose Avonte Maddox. They are using Josh Jobe out there. And I'll be honest with you, it's not going well for Josh Jobe. He's getting picked apart every single game. He's getting picked on by these quarterbacks. They've been trying different things out, moving Bradbury in the slot, trying all different type of things. As we know, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson left in free agency, so they have different safeties out there. Sidney Brown's injured. You got Terrell Edmonds. You got Justin Evans. And, of course, you have Reed Blankenship. But that's not like a great safety group like they've had in the past with Rodney McLeod's of the world. So I'm going to be honest with you. I think this team is good. I think this team definitely can win the NFC again. But right now, it has been tough. And 4-0, you are what your record indicates, and they're 4-0. They've earned it. They've had to win those games. You never take a game for granted any given Sunday. But at the same time, have there been indicators that their first loss of the year is coming up? Yes. And I do think the Rams have a shot this Sunday.
I do think the Rams have a shot this Sunday. I've been open about the fact that to start the season, my Super Bowl picks were the Eagles and the Bengals going into the season. I thought that the Super Bowl was going to be the Eagles and the Bengals, and I had the Eagles winning. The Bengals look like that was not a good pick. That looks like that is probably not going to happen. The Eagles, they're still undefeated going into week 5. I do think theoretically, if the Eagles can kind of clean up some of the things they've been struggling with, this on paper is a Super Bowl team. They certainly have the talent, right? If you look at, the guys that you mentioned, they certainly have the potential to be a Super Bowl winning team. But I feel like things still aren't quite flowing with the Eagles, might improve. But I also think this Rams team has the power of momentum. This Rams team has the power of, I think they have that chip on their shoulder that the Eagles might not have, even though they did lose the Super Bowl. So that sounds really crazy to say. But in this moment in week 5, I think that the Rams have a bit of an edge. But let's talk about, to start, Jake, let's talk about our defense going up against this Eagles offense, because you got Jalen Hurts, who I think is their best weapon. He's not only a quarterback, he can run very well. And he's very dangerous on the goal line. What do they call it? The tush push. Everyone hates so much.
That or the brotherly shove is starting to take hold.
Yeah, I prefer that.
I think the tush push sounds really stupid, and I'm over it.
Yeah, and then you've got AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, who are very good wide receiver duo. Dallas Goedert, I like a lot as well. I don't know that he's really seen quite as much action so far this season as he did last season.
It's a good game for him.
Yes, I would advise anybody who has him on your fantasy team.
The tight end prop god over here. Listener, I'm telling you.
Listen, I'm not wrong about the tight ends. Nobody wanted to listen to me about Cole Kmet this season. I told everybody, sadly, he's like the best receiver, other than DJ Moore, actually, is the best receiver on the Bears. But Cole Kmet's doing very well. So Dallas Goedert, I would take those props this weekend. We've seen how the Rams match up against tight ends, and he is certainly one of the better tight ends in the league. So, Jake, looking at this offense, like I mentioned, DeAndre Swift as well, also very good running back. He is kind of broken out of a funk that he was in Detroit. He's come to the Eagles and he's lighting it up. What's the Rams' main priority there? Because I just mentioned about 4 to 5 very different threats that they could face with this Eagles offense. So who's the first guy? Is it Jalen Hurts? Do you put all your attention on, as long as we can prevent Jalen Hurts from being Jalen Hurts, we can deal with everybody else? Or is it maybe you double team a guy like AJ Brown or Devontae Smith? Where do you focus? Because it's kind of like they're coming at you from multiple fronts.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the best case here, and by the way, it's good the Rams are coming off playing Anthony Richardson. That gets them ready for the mobility of Jalen Hurts. I don't think Jalen Hurts has the mobility that Anthony Richardson has. So I don't think they're going to have to worry as much with his running like they did with Richardson. I got to be honest with you. I'm selling out to stop the run in DeAndre Swift. I'm making sure I'm putting guys in the box. I'm trusting my guys can defend. Looking the way Kendrick has played, the way Witherspoon has played on the outside this year has been really stellar. I mean, I don't think people realize it, especially Witherspoon. Witherspoon is one of the best corners right now this year. Okay. He's top 3 in wide receiver catch rate, which is good because that means they're not catching the ball very well when he's covering. And then top 3 in opposing quarterback passer rating when targeted. So those are really good things to be good at, right? He's just been kind of a shutdown guy. And I mean, he's really come on strong coming back from the injury last year, the hamstring. So I don't think you need to double AJ Brown. I think, the hope is that, Witherspoon and Kendrick, who did an outstanding job with the likes of, Seattle's receiver group and Cincinnati's and, the Niners and even the Colts. I mean, to be fair, Pittman's really good and they held those guys in check. I will say Jamar Chase got going. And I think worst comes to worst, the Rams would, be okay having a Devontae Smith go off for 120 yards and having him get those chunk yards, but like not getting the touchdown. I know that sounds like a casual talking like that, but when you think about it, like the bend don't break, I think keeping all the explosives to a minimum would be the best way to challenge this team. And I think, really just focusing on DeAndre Swift is going to be the bread and butter here. Like I said, they run 35 times a game. It leads the league in the NFL. The Rams already are a defense that can be run on. They're 15th in the league in run defense. They're 8th in pass. Jonah Williams, I just watched the tape last night, the all 22 with the Colts. And I got to tell you, Jonah Williams is becoming a superstar. He really is in those trenches. He is top 5 in run stop rate in the NFL. He needs to bring his A game, and they need to make sure he's on the field when DeAndre Swift's on the field because he's got to be there to make that play. Aaron Donald, we know what he can do. Kobe Turner, you got Bobby Brown. So a good rotation here. Shout out to Desjuan Johnson, Mr. Irrelevant. I saw some great things on tape with him. He had some really interesting plays where it kind of, makes you stand out and be like, okay, this guy can play in this league. Not really a shock, but just to see it this early on was great. What you want to avoid is the Christian McCaffrey explosive that we saw. They held him to 3.6 aside from that, but that explosive play kind of changes the game a little bit. And then the Zach Moss brute force running the ball, right? Because Zach Moss started running the ball in the second half when the Colts got back into the game. And now all of a sudden he's able to wear out your defense. You can't have that. So they have to keep DeAndre Swift in check. This guy can absolutely kill you. He's been killing teams left and right since he has been named the go-to starter, and they're going to want to run it with him. And I'm not really sure how that's going to work with Cam Jurgens likely out for this game. They'll probably put Suo Peta in there to have him as the backup, or maybe even Tyler Steen. But still, there are 4 guys right there: Mailata, Dickerson, Kelsey, and Lane Johnson. That's one of the best offensive lines in all of football, regardless if Cam Jurgens can play or not. You can throw anybody there at right guard. You take those 4 guys over most in the league. So I think there's a really good chance here. And it's not to take anything away from Swift. Just the offensive line's legit. And so I think the Rams might have to make adjustments here and sell out to stop the run. And the thing that's really important here, I think, for Raheem Morris is limiting the possessions that Jalen Hurts gets. Okay. You want to force turnovers because, by the way, the Rams offense has not started a possession in the opponent's territory. So that's important. They're the only team in the league that hasn't gotten a turnover and immediately put the offense back on the field ready to score right on the opponent's side. So it'd be nice to get one of those, but if not, you have to limit the possessions. You have to win the time possession battle. Don't get me wrong, but you want to make sure he's not getting 10, 11, 12 possessions. If you can limit this to a 7-8 possession game, I think that you could pretty easily take down Philly if you're able to limit them for 7 and 8 possessions, but easier said than done, Alexis.
Yeah, I agree with you on all that. Particularly, I think DeAndre Swift. I think if you can shut down the run game, whether it's DeAndre Swift or Jalen Hurts, right? Because they're both big threats in the run game. Then what you have to do is you're forcing Jalen Hurts to throw the ball. And I think if you can if you can trust guys that have stepped up, Darion Kendrick, Trey Tomlinson, Witherspoon, Jacoby Durant, all these guys to step up, Russ Yeast against the pass and make it really difficult for them there, I think you have a good shot at winning this game. You also have to pressure the quarterback. This is something I think, it's obviously always important. The Rams have struggled with this. They really need to step up and do this game because I think if you can make Jalen Hurts as uncomfortable as possible and then also prevent them from using DeAndre Swift, they're going to have a hard time. And even then, they still have receivers like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So, like I said earlier, it's not going to be easy. I don't think this is going to be a cakewalk for the Rams. I don't think this is going to be a game kind of like Seattle or Indianapolis where they were able to kind of put the kibosh on things pretty quickly. Obviously, Indianapolis ended up turning out differently, in the second half. But in the first half, they pretty much had their way with them. Philadelphia's offense is much better than Indianapolis's offense. So I don't think they're going to have that type of ease going against this very talented Eagles offense. But this Eagles defense and our offense, we should talk about the fact that Cooper Kupp is back against the Philadelphia Eagles week 5. It feels like we haven't seen him play in so long because he had some injuries last season. Then they were, once it was clear that the Rams weren't going to go into the playoffs or go far into the playoffs, the Rams were conservative with him as they should have been. Didn't want to aggravate his injury more. Unfortunately, he got injured again in preseason. Now he's back, and I think he's in a good position to be back, Jake, because he doesn't have to come back and be the guy. Because Puka Nacua is the guy. Kyron Williams is also, quote unquote, the guy. They've kind of been carrying the load. Tutu Atwell could also be considered, the guy. He's also contributed. So Cooper, I think, is in a nice situation in this offense where he's not going to be filling his role that he's had with Matthew Stafford in the past of being the target machine, seeing that dominance of targets. Now, will he be? That's a different discussion. I think it's different if he falls back into that role than does he have to be. And I think I think the pressure of having to be that guy is gone because I think at least Stafford knows if you can't find Cooper, you have other reliable targets. Jake, looking at this, and that's kind of what my question was going to be, do you think week 5 that Cooper Kupp is going to automatically take over his role, getting most of the targets, getting most of the catches? Or do you think he won't be? Do you think that we actually don't see as much of Cooper Kupp in this game as we're used to seeing him in a game?
I think we're going to see a lot of Cooper Kupp. I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's going well with Puka Nacua. It's going well with Tutu Atwell, Higbee, Kyron, all that. But at the end of the day, Matthew Stafford knows he's a better quarterback when Cooper Kupp's on the field. And I think if they aren't double teaming him, there's really no excuse. Like if he's getting open in one-on-ones, like he's going to get the ball. He wasn't limited at all in practice this week. And Sean McVay said there's really not going to be any limitations on him in the game unless anything, comes up. And so, I think we're probably going to see that. And I could see the Rams using Cooper Kupp early on as a tool to open up the run game, because I think they're going to have to do what they did against the 49ers. We talked about it. We knew Kyron Williams and company were not going to be able to run the football against that Niners front unless they, softened them up a little bit with the pass. And that's what happened. I expect them to do the same. And I think Cooper Kupp gets going. Now, okay, you want to double Cooper Kupp. Now you have to know that Puka Nacua is going to have an opportunity, or Van Jefferson or Tyler Higbee. But most importantly, I think the one that really gets affected by Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp being out there is Tutu Atwell, because now Atwell can really run that Brandon Cook style role where now he can stretch the field and he can really start to open up. And what I mean by stretch the field, to people that don't understand, is he's going over the top of the defense. And now you can basically clear out. We saw it in the game-winning touchdown. He's able to clear out. He took the attention of 3 guys and cleared out a wide-open space for Puka Nacua, as well as the Bryson Hopkins double team, which you could say it's a busting coverage, but there's more than meets the eye there. And so I think the speed factor of Tutu Atwell is something that you can't sleep on, but you can't double Atwell and, not double Kupp. You can't double Kupp and not double Nakua. So this is what happens when you have a trio like the Rams do. And currently, no one in the NFL, in my opinion, has this trio. It's just not even close. I mean, when you look, there are teams that are kind of similar. You have your T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and you're like, okay, that's kind of similar. But Tyler Boyd's kind of fallen off, right? And none of them are going to be that Tutu Atwell, and none of them are going to be that Cooper Kupp and so forth. So I think what we're seeing with this trio is that whatever happens is going to be something unprecedented, because we haven't seen a trio like this that complements each other this well. And for the people that say, well, Puka Nacua was playing the Cooper Kupp role, what is that role exactly? Are you saying a guy that can get open all over the field? Because that's what Puka Nacua does. He plays all over the field. And, I think that's the thing people are kind of not understanding, is that you essentially have three receivers that can be interchangeable and they can work in every single role. Typically speaking, you'd rather not have Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua go long over a Tutu Atwell, but you can mix things up. I think the underneath, the short and intermediate game is going to open up the top for Tutu Atwell. And that's why I have a really good feeling the Rams have a shot to win this game, because I think Stafford can pick apart guys like Josh Jobe. I think, looking at that safety room is susceptible to getting beat. And then I think you look at James Bradbury and Darius Slay, who I think are off to kind of weaker starts than we've seen in the past. I think this secondary can be thrown on. And so Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, they're going to open up a lot for this offense, but make no mistake about it, the biggest beneficiary of this whole thing with Cooper Kupp coming back is in fact Tutu Atwell.
Yeah, I agree with your thoughts. I am a little unsure, though, if this is going to be the Cooper Kupp game. I actually kind of think they're not going to, unless it gets into a situation where maybe we're losing, or I actually think that they are going to ease Cooper Kupp back in, because I think the last thing that you want is to just say, all right, go in there, and I'm sure the hamstring's fine. I know they know what they're doing, but why push it if you don't have to when it's a guy like Cooper Kupp, and especially if your offense is already hot? That's just my opinion. I don't know what we're going to see. I love Cooper Kupp. He's on my dynasty team. I hope that he gets a lot of targets, and I hope that he gets a lot of touchdowns and does very well. But I am excited to see what this Rams offense looks like with Cooper Kupp, Nacua, and Atwell as that wide receiver trio. I obviously want to see what they can do in the run game. I hope that they do run the ball. It's going to be harder this game. There's another thing I wanted to bring up is we've been screaming run the ball all season. I think this is the first team that we've faced where I'm a little nervous about running the ball. I think Jalen Carter is a reason to be nervous about
Jordan
running
Davis.
the ball. Yeah, Jordan Davis. I mean, they've got a lot of guys who make the run game pretty difficult for opposing running backs, but I think they should still at least try, at least in the first, maybe second quarter. If you can establish a rhythm, great. But I won't be surprised at all if this is if this is a game where the Rams don't run the ball as much, because I just think this defense is the best run defense we've probably really seen. Maybe not statistically, but overall, I think so far this season. So I'm a little bit nervous about the run game for us. I'm not sure it's going to be as successful. So that's why, guys like Cooper Kupp, Nacua, Atwell, Higbee can get involved in this passing game. And I think that they will find success against this Eagles secondary.
Yeah, I think kind of going back to that, it's funny I bring up the Niners. You know who is, according to PFF, do you know who's rated the second run defense? The Seattle Seahawks.
Interesting.
It's one of those things. It's why Kyron Williams, his DVOA is so high, because it's defensive adjusted, right? So because it's defensive adjusted, he's gone up against the number 2 defense, the number 8 defense. Who else do we play? Colts. So number 13th, and then the Bengals, obviously, this 26th. But with with the Eagles. I mean, this is number one, so it would only help his DVOA out anyway. Um, I think they're really going to try to keep the run going, though. I do. And I think what is going to work well for them and what is best suited for them is the fact that they have Ronnie Rivers. Having Kyron carry the load entirely would be a recipe for disaster because it's like, all right, now he has to work extra hard against these guys. You're talking about, Josh Sweat, who can, set the edge well. I know Fletcher Cox is out, but we talked about it. Jalen Carter's turning into an absolute superstar. Jordan Davis is a stud. Hassan Reddick can set the edge. So you have guys there. And so I think now there's just a little bit of a difference between Ronnie Rivers and Kyron. I think Ronnie has a little bit more like explosion, if you will. Whereas I think Kyron's more patient, which works. And, I think they both work. And I think that's what makes them. It's like Alexis, and this is why people who are complaining about these two, because it's not your stereotypical lightning, thunder and lightning, where you got a big power back and then you go with a smaller guy. Like everyone wanted to see Todd Gurley and Trey Mason, and it never really happened. Here's what I'll say is that I would equate it to pitching, because think about it. Okay, a changeup or, taking something off the fastball or whatever. It's just a little bit of a tweak, but that little bit of a tweak can get you to get, missed batters essentially and strikeouts. And so I'm thinking that just that little bit of a tweak between Kyron and Ronnie, who are very similar. We've talked about it. I think Kyron obviously is the better pass protector, but the two have upside. And I think by having somebody like that in there who has a little bit more explosion and Kyron who's a little bit more patient, throws off the defense a little bit. And I think stuff like that is how, the Rams are going to be able to do that. But I also, Alexis, think eventually the Eagles got to realize, look, if they're just having their way with the passing attack, and there's a chance that they might, we're not going to be able to keep stacking the box here. We're going to have to go with a lighter front, and it's going to be up to those guys. And that's when I think a Kyron, a Ronnie can eat, essentially. They're also going to try other things as well. They'll try, handoffs to probably Ben Skoranek, to Tutu Atwell, to Van Jefferson, to Cooper Kupp, to Puka Nacua, all those guys. They'll probably try a few. You try to keep them off balance. There are ways, because there's not a defense that can defend everything. And that's the important thing to realize, when you're watching football. Oh, wow, we can't throw on this defense. We can't do anything. There's always at least one thing you can do that you're missing. And I think Sean McVay will find that.
So do you think Kyron gets 2 rushing touchdowns this game?
I mean, I think that's very possible. I mean, I'll be honest with you, the anytime touchdown, Cooper Kupp just seems like the biggest lock of the entire week, because if Cooper Kupp does one thing the whole game, if he only catches one pass, it will be a touchdown. Like he is getting in the end zone. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, I've thought a lot about that prop, because that Kyron Williams 2 touchdown prop has just been working for me and a lot of people. He has not had. Now
Eagles. Cooper's back, so it's like I honestly, and this actually says a lot about Kyron, is that I think they literally leaned on Kyron so much in the red zone because Cooper Kupp was out, and they're like, we trust Puka, we trust Atwell, but there's just something about Kyron that's a guarantee. It seems like when we enter the red area, except for the Bengals game because they didn't use him. So this is how I see it. I think Cooper Kupp coming back really complicates that play. I'm just saying that right now. If Kyron has fewer touchdowns, I won't be surprised moving forward.
Well, and that's why I still did take a prop on the Kyron 2+, because I just feel like I have to seeing
it's the brand.
It's just seeing what's I mean, he hasn't had a game with just 1 touchdown. It's either 2 or not at all, right?
Yeah.
But I do think now you've got another red zone guy back, kind of like you mentioned. I think Kyron has made his career in college and now in the NFL as being a red zone guy. Cooper Kupp has also made his career as a red zone guy. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I think it's also going to depend on what the Eagles defense gives them. Like I said, I think their run defense is more scary to me than their pass defense. And I think Cooper could have his way with this Eagles secondary, especially in the red zone. So that's something to look out for. But Jake, let's get into our predictions. I'll let you go first. What are 3 predictions? Bold. We'll go bold. Well, usually you go bold and I pretend like I'm going bold, but it's really like not. For this game against the Eagles.
All right. So let's start off with Matthew Stafford. I'm seeing a 3 touchdown performance for Stafford, over 300 yards. I think he gets back in the saddle. Okay. I think his numbers kind of suck right now compared to where they could be and where they should be. Right. I think he's had a really good year and the numbers don't indicate that. And I told you last week, I thought he would start to, be able to, they would let him throw it a little bit more in the red zone. I really think Cooper Kupp is kind of what Sean McVay was waiting for. I also think you have to be careful putting too much tape out there of what you want to do this early in the season, right? So I think that's why they've kind of just been content on like, all right, we'll just keep using Kyron. No one can stop it. And that way we're not having to, use any kind of, show our tricks, if you will. And so I do think it's worked in that sense. I do think we get Cooper Kupp in the end zone. I think Kyron gets a touchdown. And then I'm going to say the other passing touchdown is going to go to Puka. Actually, no. I'm going to say it goes to Tyler Higbee because last time he faced the Eagles, he had 3 of them. So I'm going to say Tyler gets in the end zone there. So Tyler Higbee, Cooper Kupp, and Kyron Williams. I think those will be the 3 passing touchdowns for Stafford. And the 300 yards, it's a need. If Matthew Stafford doesn't go over his prop, I think is 275. If he doesn't go over 275, the Rams lost. That's how I know. The Rams lost. I'll say that. My Kyron Williams one, I'm going to say a total of 120 yards total. So on the ground, passing, all together. I think he's going to be a big portion of this. And the reason I say that is because even if you can't run the ball, if you're dumping it off him, it's still kind of simulating somewhat of a running game. I think they'll also use that to their advantage. And I think Kyron's just going to get better and better and better in the receiving game. I think he got off to a rough start. People forget he's very new to this. Okay. He's very new to being a starting running back in the NFL and just basically just having his wings clipped. Like there's nothing there essentially. He's on his own. Right. And so, until last week, we finally saw Ronnie Rivers, but for the most part, like 25 carries, I did not expect to see that from Kyron Williams. And so I think he goes for 120. And as I said, he has the receiving touchdown. And then I'm going to say something here. I think, okay, I got to mention his name. We didn't talk about him. O'Shawn Mathis. So I've been hearing some things in the organization. They really like him. 189th overall pick out of Nebraska. Okay. This edge room needs more pressure. We talked about it. Michael Hoyt's not cutting it, really not cutting it. Byron Young is 15th in the league in pressures, so he is cutting it and then some. Aaron Donald is number 1 for interior defensive linemen. You've seen good things out of Kobe Turner and so forth. So they need a guy to step up. I think O'Shawn Mathis not only makes his debut on Sunday, but I think he's going to get to the quarterback and sack Jalen Hurts in this game, not once, but twice, like last year with Laurel Murchison when the Rams picked him up off of waivers and we couldn't believe he just got thrown into the fire and had 2 sacks. I think we're going to get that. I think O'Shawn Mathis, they saw something. Jordan Rodriguez, the Athletic, pointed out that he was competing with Byron Young for legitimate reps. Like they were, actually splitting time there before he got hurt. They like him. There is a very good reason why they kept him on the roster. They risked losing other guys there. They keep him on the 53 for 1 day and then put him on IR so he can return. And now here he is with a chance to return week 5. I think he does. And I'm going to say he gets 2 sacks. Bold prediction.
That is bold.
Very bold.
One of my predictions is I think Byron Young gets a sack. Not a half sack. He gets a full sack all to himself this game. He just is going to, I think he's going to do it. I think he is pretty much, as of right now, the only edge presence that we really have, unless you move Aaron Donald to the edge. But if you're not counting Aaron Donald as an edge rusher, Byron Young is it. And I think he's going to get a sack on Jalen Hurts this game. I think we are going to see a Cooper Kupp touchdown as well. That was one of mine. I do think he's going to make his presence known again with his return to the field. Just feels right. He's going to be in SoFi Stadium, so home game. And my next prediction, I'm debating which one I want to do. Okay, this is bold. I think we're going to have a Matthew Stafford rushing touchdown.
I was like, who's Matthew Rafferty?
All those words that I just wanted to say, just Matthew Stafford and rushing all combined in my brain at the same time. So I'm going to say it again. Matthew Stafford rushing touchdown for over 5 yards. It's not going to be like the brotherly shove, not going to be a quarterback sneak. He is going to run into the end zone, and it's going to look great. It's going to be really fun. I don't know if that's bold, but we haven't seen it in a while. So
yeah. I mean, I'm gonna piggyback off yours. You said brotherly shove. I think the Rams are gonna stop a brotherly shove in this game. It's gonna be a big reason why. Well, I'll save it for that segment. But you know where I'm going with this.
How has it ever been stopped? Because I'm confused. Like, I see all the media hype by it, and they're like, people hate it because it's quote unquote unstoppable. Has it actually ever been stopped, or has it worked literally 100% of the time?
I think it's worked 100% of the time with a caveat here. I think there was a penalty that they called last week. So I think referees are now starting to call, like, they called it like illegal formation, I think it was.
They've been calling that on so much this season.
Can I just say something? I don't have an issue with it. Like, they are the only team that can figure it out. That's on the rest of that's on 31 teams. Like, if that works for them, find a way to do it. If the Rams want it to do it so bad, then put out somebody that can do it. If Stafford can't do it, all right. So bring in Ben Skoranek, have him hold on to the football and do it. Like, I'm sorry. I don't like the victim mentality here. Like, just, you could stop it, or if you can't stop it, then you do it. Because I'm so tired of, we have to call the competition committee because somebody outsmarted us, and somebody outsmarted the entire league, which we call a visionary, by the way. Those are like the Albert Einsteins of the world. And it's not like, somebody called up and said, no, Albert's too smart for his own good. It should be illegal how smart he is. And they had him hauled off to jail. It doesn't work that way. So because somebody found a loophole, if you will, in the rule book, which is, by the way, a legal play. Now you're talking about the competition committee, like, yeah, I don't know. It's not a true football. There's the spirit of the game. Miss me with that. And I'm not an Eagles fan, and I'm saying that. And they're going against the Rams, and there's a chance that they're going to run this and win the game because of this. And I'm still saying that because I think it's ridiculous that you're going to sit there and complain about one play.
I agree. When I was seeing, and I forget who the player was, but, defensive players complaining about it and saying that, whatever fans saying it should be illegal. I just feel like people are mad because they're mad they can't do it. Like, it's a legal play. And I've heard, other people talk about that the reason it is successful is because of Jalen Hurts, right? He's like hard to bring down. He's like not built like a stereotypical quarterback. Like, he's very compact. He's muscular. He's strong. It is really hard to bring him down when they get into that brotherly love formation. And I agree with you. I think if you can't do it, that's on you. Find a way to do it. Like you said, Ben Skoranek, put him in. I'm sure that he could do it.
He'd be perfect for it.
I'm all for it. I love it when people score in unconventional ways. I love the offensive lineman touchdown. I would love for the Rams to do that at some point. I don't know that I've ever seen the Rams pull it off.
I'd still love to see AD score a touchdown, but I just don't see them doing that in a regular season. Like, it would be stupid. Like, in the Super Bowl, I think they'd consider it. If it came up in the Super Bowl, although they didn't do it against the Bengals, but if it came up in the Super Bowl again where they were at the goal line, I think they consider putting Aaron Donald in there and having him either catch a touchdown or run for one. I wouldn't be surprised. What I will say, to be fair, on the defensive side, I don't mind defensive players complaining as much. I really mind when fans are complaining. That's what really seems to bother me. And when offensive coaches are complaining, it's like you said, just do it. The defense, to be fair, to give both sides, to play devil's advocate here, the defense isn't allowed to do what the offense is doing on the other side, because that's considered when you do stuff like that, where you dive over, on the field goal or whatever, that's considered leverage. That's considered unsportsmanlike conduct. You can't do that. But then on the offensive side, you could dive over the pile all you want. So I do think there's definitely a balance issue there. But that's the thing. If defenders want to complain about it, okay. If the offensive players want to complain about it and the coaches want to complain about it and the fans, no. I draw the line there. I can't handle it. Like, move on. It's not a big deal. I will say this. Aaron Donald talked about it, and he said he knows there's a way to stop it. He believes that they can stop it, but he says it's going to be really difficult. Notice Aaron Donald wasn't complaining about it. He wasn't saying they can't. He wasn't saying it's unfair. That's the competitive nature AD has, because he's just like, I'm ready. Let's go.
If the Rams are the first team to stop it, then
they're going to be. I called it.
Then if anyone's going to do it, I think it'd be Aaron Donald. So that can be a joint bold prediction that we finally, the Rams stop the brotherly shove, which yes. I also do find it hard to believe no one has even tried to do it. That's another thing. No other offense that I've seen has really tried to do it.
I thought someone did, and it was so bad. Like,
yeah, I mean, you have to. I don't know
or something.
I don't know another quarterback that, off the top of my head, that I think could, like, Justin Fields is like kind of similarly built, that he's very hard to bring down, but like that offensive line is.
Yeah, no, that's
their offensive line is so bad that it would never work. But like in terms of like a quarterback being able to pull it off, other than him, I don't really see a comp. I don't.
So, okay. So all right, it has. I guess so. The Commanders didn't stop it. I don't think. I think there was a penalty.
I feel like when I've been seeing this discourse on Twitter, and I haven't looked too hard into it, it's never been stopped.
Yeah, it says that it was unsuccessful, but I think that was a penalty. They called it. I don't know. I don't care enough. Anyway, I'm just being honest. Score predictions, baby.
All right.
You go
first. My prediction for this score is that the Rams will win.
Ooh.
24-20. I think it's going to be close because, like I said earlier, I do really respect this Eagles team and especially this offense. I really do think that they're very good. And, I think it is going to be a battle. I do not think that the Rams go in there and blow out this Eagles team. As much as we'd love to see it, I just don't think it's going to happen. But I do think we're going to win because, like I said, I think that the Eagles have not really, like, they've been winning games, and a win is a win, but they have struggled a lot. They did really struggle against the Commanders. We all watched the Commanders get blown out by the Chicago Bears on Thursday Night Football. The Commanders are, in my opinion, not a very good football team, and they took this Eagles team to overtime. I think this Rams team has the advantage of having really good momentum on their side. I think that you're seeing a team that gets better each week. They're starting to gel together. You're getting Cooper Kupp back. They're at home at SoFi. My gut just tells me the Rams are going to pull it out. And I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, I won't be utterly shocked, like I said, because I think this Eagles team is very good. But I think the Rams are going to win 24-20.
Yeah. So I don't, because I think they're going to win 27-24.
Okay.
I wanted to see if anybody in the comments section will actually do anything for that. I don't know if I paused long enough, but anyway, I think the Rams win 27-24. I think that they're going to win this football game. Here's why. 3 out of the 4 first games of the year, they are on the road. Okay. So they've learned how to win on the road somewhat. 2 wins on the road, and actually 2 wins on the road, and they've lost 2, one on the road and 1 at home. My thinking is that the Rams are back. They are going to make a push in the NFC, and I think this is where it all starts. I think they had a nice run in the first 4 games to be 2-2, should have been 3-1. We can do that all day. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. But 2-2 without Cooper Kupp is impressive. Okay. It really is. I think Cooper Kupp gives them a chance to win literally any game because he is a cheat code. Like he finds the soft spot in zones. He can do everything. So I look at this game and I see the Eagles, they've kind of sent some signals out that they're ready to kind of drop their first game of the season. And man, it almost came last week. But I think the Rams are going to be the team to do it. And the reason being is I think they know how to play the mobile quarterback a little bit better than some of these defenses. They have a lot of experience going up against, Kyler Murray, going up against Geno Smith, Russell Wilson, so forth. Like Raheem Morris has a lot of experience. So I think the defense will be ready to go. I think that they are going to do their damnedest to hold down DeAndre Swift. And I think, I know there's going to be some smart asses in the comments section about, oh, well, it doesn't matter because they're not playing a home game. They're obviously going to be playing a road game against the Eagles. That's not the point. And that's not even a big issue for me. I think the biggest thing, Alexis, that people miss in the home field advantage, it's not just the fans. I think that's actually the overrated thing. I think it's about being in your natural habitat. I think it's about being, okay, I get to sleep in my own bed. I get to see my family. I get to go through my own progression of life for an entire week. I don't have to work on, take flights to across country or anything. You are home, right? So I think that means more than people let on. And especially when you could just come out and say, we won 2 out of the first 4. 3 of those were on the road, and now the next 3 are all at home. This is a homestand. Rams are going to feel good about that. I think they come out, they want to set the tone early on. And I think if you were worried about them maybe getting a little too comfortable being at home, oh, well, we have 3 games, they overlook this. No. You have the arrow that is right on their back. They are the NFC reigning champions. 1. 2, you got Cooper Kupp back. It's game on. And I don't know what that is. I really don't.
There has to be something that you're clicking that is making it, for people who are listening and not watching, the cartoon balloons just went across Jake's screen again.
I must be saying a code word or something. I'll look into it.
I don't
know. I didn't say happy birthday. I don't know what that is. It's so bizarre. Anyway.
Yeah.
Point is, Alexis, I think it's game on. I think they'll be ready, and I'm not worried about them having a stinker at home. I think they're going to win this game. They're 0-1 at home. They went against the Niners. I thought they played well. The preparation has been there. And for the most part, they've shown up in every game. I think they definitely showed up in the Bengal game. They had 2 touchdowns taken away, but I also think McVay just stopped running the ball and it killed them. So I think they've shown up in every game. Maybe sustaining those leads a little bit has been a little bit of a disaster, but no, I think they're going to win this game. And I'm not worried about them falling off or anything like that. I think McVay will have them ready to go. And I think Raheem Morris will have the defense ready to go. And the best players on the team are going to give it their all.
I agree. I hope we are both right and we see a Rams win this Sunday against the Eagles in LA. And I think that we will be, and I'm very excited to see it. But guys, that's going to do it for us. We will be back later after the game for a game recap. We also have our 500th episode coming up. That is our next episode. So Jake and I for that are going to do just a fun little mini episode in honor of 500. We're going to have a special guest on. And yeah, we're excited for that. This is episode 499. Episode 500 comes out shortly after. But until then, guys, as I always say, stay safe, take care, and go Rams.